343 was standing just behind 239. His face was knit in concentration. The old man's nose had a drop of blood forming just below the left nostril, slowly running down over the crest of his lip and dropping down onto his shirt. Hello everybody, I'm TheRubber. Today, we bring you SCP Foundation's Safe Class Object, SCP-343. SCP-343, colloquially nicknamed God by the staff of SCP Foundation, is an older man. He is a humanoid in appearance, but with apparent omnipotence. According to the Foundation, although 343 looks like an old man, his features could appear differently to each observer. 343 claimed to be the creator of the universe. When asked to prove it, he laughed, walked through the wall of the chamber, and returned seconds later with a hamburger in his hand. When the doctor returned for a second visit, the previously bare cell had been furnished into a larger room, one that embraced a fantastical Old English type of style and seemed many times larger than it did from the exterior. 343 was discovered walking the streets of Prague. He was detained after a staff member witnessed him disappear from the street, only to reappear a short time later on a rooftop. 343 is detained willingly in his chamber, as containment has proved impossible. 343 resides in a 6.1 meter by 6.1 meter room at Minimal Security Site 17. He should be brought any items he requests and visited by at least one staff member each day because he likes company. Attempts to add further safety precautions or required clearances are unnecessary due to the nature of 343. SCP-343 greatly enjoys speaking with people and seems to have a knowledge of all topics. Visiting 343 has become a daily event for many of the Foundation's staff members, and most of them have reported feeling happier after each visit. Since 343 has been rather harmless thus far, all staff have been allowed access. According to SCP Tales, it was believed that 343 is the one who mentored SCP-239, allowing her to master her powers and create ways. SCP-239 is a small girl with the ability to do whatever she expresses a will to do, as long as she is conscious. If she can see it, she can change it. Hence, as a method of controlling 239, the Foundation has put her in a coma. However, SCP-239 later developed a complete resistance to the drugs the Foundation had used to keep her comatose. To stop her from reawakening, the director of SCP Foundation was forced to request the O5 Council for the immediate release of Dr. Alto Clef from his confinement, and immediately assigned him to this case. Dr. Clef was given access to any materials he required. All personnel were to assist Dr. Clef by any and all non-carnal means. Clef walked into the Victorian-styled study and smiled at the fragrance of pipe smoke and at the sight of old books. The old man was seated in a high-backed chair with a hardbound copy of Don Quixote open in his lap. The old man looked up, startled surprise before smiling.
Dr. Clef.
Hello, 343.
Oh, please. No numbers between friends.
Sit, please. We both know what you are. I've never said anything about you, not to anyone, nor have I recommended your termination, mainly because you stayed at level 3 and never posed a significant threat. You remember me from the GOC then? Geneva? 1989? And you remembered that you owe me a favor.
Yes, Doctor. I remember.
I've come to collect. There's another type green. This one has progressed to level 4.
I'm very old now, Doctor. I'm not sure how useful I can be. Sometimes I look for books, but I can't remember their names, and they're just not there anymore. Just the other day, a young man came in here to ask me about something, and I forgot he was here. And then he wasn't. Just gone, and I can't remember him. No one wants to say anything.
Your aid will be necessary.
I am a man of honor, Doctor. I will do whatever you need.
Days later, Dr. Clef appeared in SCP-239's containment. He was looking through the steel, attempting to get a glimpse at 239's sleeping form. He watched her, watched the fading phantasms of her flicker about the room and scratching at the walls. He turned and picked up the thin helmet, strapping it to his head. The body armor was a little bulkier than he'd anticipated, but it fit well enough. He pulled on the gloves, fingered the purple gun underneath his jacket, and felt through his pockets until he found the tiny box containing his emergency backup. He grinned and picked up a keycard, sliding it into a control panel in front of the glass. He flipped the switches all down to their off position and pulled out the revolver, bringing it up to point at 239, who was slowly waking up. Clef was running very quickly. He could feel her back there, floating somewhere. He risked a glance backward, watching the floors buckle into water and piss, dirt and air. He hoped she would be off balance enough from the medications that she would be less capable, less able to affect the environmental changes on the universe. He was quite sure it was a pointless hope now. He rounded the corner and the walls slid into chunks of burning human flesh. The smell of human flesh began to turn his stomach slightly before making it growl uncomfortably. One more turn and he'd be at ground zero. Another 10 feet. 9, 8, 7. He burst through the doors. "Where's 343? The doors opened slowly. The being that floated through them didn't look like it was, is, or had ever been a little girl. Years of atrophy had turned her limbs into spindly wires of flesh wrapped around bone. She wasn't able to lift them. She couldn't even turn her head. The tubes that had hung out of her arms were now crawling over her body like centipedes. She opened her mouth, trying to say something, but only a gurgle came out. She looked at Clef and gurgled again, louder, angrily. 343 was standing just behind 239, his face knit in concentration. The old man's nose had a drop of blood forming below the left nostril, slowly running down over the crest of his lip and dropping onto his shirt. The girl screamed in rage, and 343 cried out, staggered by the changes she was forcing into the world. The drugs in her system were quickly dissipating, with her control over the world around her returning. 239 turned the air into chlorine for a moment, just a moment before 343 could stop her. 343 was kneeling on the floor, ears bleeding. His knotted hands were clenched as his foe turned for the moment from Clef to float toward him. It was almost beautiful to watch, Clef thought, stopping for an instant to observe what he hoped was a rare circumstance. The distance between them crackled as the hovering female changed things, reversing the laws of physics and existence as 343 set them back into place. It was like watching a petulant child throw her toys to the floor while her patient grandfather picked them back up. Clef edged around near the door, raising the revolver again. He fired. Chunks of flesh were ripped from her body and thrown behind her to the mirror. She screamed as the cancer started to form almost instantly under her flesh. "Don't care much for that, do you, little girl?" Clef dropped the gun and tackled her before she could recover, hitting her tiny waist sharply and pushing her toward the mirror, grasping SCP-073 and shoving. They fell into a strange field, with rolling wheat and smells of emptiness. The girl was rolling on the ground, willing herself up off the ground pitifully. Clef stood nearby, knocking the bits of wheat and grass off his armor. He walked over and forced her body over. "Sorry, dearie, different world, different rules." Finally, he managed to knock her out. As she loses consciousness, her eyes thankfully glossed in the pleasant emptiness of oblivion. When information concerning SCP-076 was brought to the attention of SCP-073 for backing up, 073 showed familiarity with the information and was disinclined to adding to it. It then stated that it is best not to meet with SCP-076 out of consideration for all parties involved. Hello everybody, I'm TheRubber. Today, we bring you SCP Foundation Keter Class Object SCP-073. SCP-073, also known as Cain, appears to be a heavily tanned male of Arabic or Middle Eastern descent in his early 30s, 6'1" tall and 75 kilograms, with black hair and blue eyes. Arms, legs, spinal cord, and shoulder blades of 073 appear to have been replaced with artificial versions of unknown make and metal. 073 only takes notice of this when it is pointed out, and states that it has no knowledge of how, why, or when these replacements took place, stating it had had them as long as it could remember. Examination of the unidentified metal on SCP-073 has suggested that it is beryllium bronze, a metal that has been documented as being utilized by various anomalous cultures and entities. In light of this discovery, the Foundation began working in an attempt to trace the origin of beryllium bronze and how it initially spread throughout the world. When prompted, SCP-073 was able to provide information suggests that beryllium bronze originated in the Middle East, though the exact point of origin has yet to be determined. Further research into the origin of beryllium bronze is currently ongoing. There is also a symbol engraved into the forehead of 073, which appears to be of Sumerian origin. Symbol has of yet been untranslated, and 073 appears distressed when the symbol is mentioned at all, refusing to speak on it. 073 does need to eat and drink on a regular basis, but is strictly carnivorous, owing to its effect on plant-based items. 073 is generally polite and genial to all who speak to it, though it has been described as cold and somewhat mechanical in its speech. 073 is extremely helpful and enjoys aiding personnel in their daily actions, whatever they may be. It has highly detailed knowledge of ancient to recent events in history and most commonly spoken languages in the world, including ones that have since died out. 073 has professed to have a photographic memory, remembering word for word all text in an 800-page dictionary that was flipped through in a minute and a half. It has scored above average in all intelligence tests given to it. SCP-073's presence is inimical to all life grown in soil, causing death to any life within a 20-meter radius. Any land 073 has walked on and any within the 20-meter radius becomes barren, as all anaerobic bacteria dies, rendering the soil incapable of supporting life until new bacteria are introduced. Anything that is derived from soil-grown life, such as wood and paper, immediately rots and disintegrates upon touch of 073. Further affected derivatives include anything hydroponically grown. Any damages directly towards 073 will reflect directly back onto the attacker, although 073 visibly remains unharmed. Attempts to get tissue and blood samples have proven futile. When the procedure was initiated, personnel carrying out the action felt the sensation of whatever was applied to 073 and wound up with a sample of their own blood or tissue, despite the fact that all actions were directed solely at 073. Indirect damage through a medium also results in the person perpetrating the action receiving the wounds caused. Although 073 receives no actual harm from damage to its person, it has stated that it still feels the pain of the action and has politely asked researchers to abstain from overly harmful actions to its person. In light of SCP-073's indestructible nature, photographic memory, and general will to please, High Command have deemed that all information is to be backed up on 073, ensuring it is not lost in the event of a catastrophe. While this action has been met with mixed responses, 073 has agreed and sworn itself to secrecy on its part. SCP-073 was first found by the SCP Foundation in the New York Police Department, having been taken in after 073 had been found amidst the bodies of several violent gang members. 073 told police members that the gang had attempted to make fun of it, but became angry and attempted to kill 073, resulting in their own demise. 073 was incarcerated and was deemed a John Doe when NYPD could not find any information on it. 073 came to the attention of the Foundation through a routine inspection of John Doe's and was subsequently released into the Foundation's custody. When information concerning SCP-076 was brought to the attention of SCP-073 for backing up, 073 showed familiarity with the information and was disinclined to adding to it. It then stated that it is best not to meet with SCP-076 out of consideration for all parties involved. SCP-076 consists of two components, a black speckled metamorphic stone referred as SCP-076-1 and a humanoid entity contained within, referred as SCP-076-2. 076-2 resembles a lean, Semitic human male in his late 20s. For more information about SCP-076, check out this video. Rumor has it that 076-2 and 073 are based off the biblical characters Cain and Abel. In the biblical book of Genesis, Cain and Abel are the first two sons of Adam and Eve. Cain, the firstborn, was a farmer, and his brother Abel was a shepherd. The symbol engraved on 073's forehead is obviously the mark of Cain, and, at least according to the Bible, it makes the land barren around him. That is why all organic materials decompose when he is near. Although we're still not sure about their relationship, but we're definitely sure that 076-2 hates 073. Because upon sight of it, 076-2 became highly enraged and aggressive, killing several of the researchers. According to the Bible, Cain and Abel made sacrifices to Yahweh, the national God of the kingdoms of Israel and Judah. Each of their own produce, but Yahweh favored Abel's sacrifice instead of Cain's. Cain then murdered Abel, whereupon Yahweh punished Cain by condemning him to a life of wandering. Cain then dwelt in the land of Nod, where he built a city and fathered the line of descendants beginning with Enoch. Hence, 076-2 seems to be reincarnated as a vengeful being. He just kills and kills, which seems like he is exacting revenge for being murdered by 073. Recently, a Grade 3 researcher, Dorothy Zhang from the Chinese branch, had proposed a plan to the Containment Area 25 administrator that can possibly contain SCP-076 more efficiently. Dorothy suggested to add amnestic equipment to the killing corridor inside SCP-076-2's containment measures, attempt to erase its memory about its death. The possible outcomes of the plan include a reduction in the state of anger and a reduction in the containment process. There was no foreseen injurious consequence, and the cost was within an acceptable range. Finally, the proposal was approved. After the procedure, 076-2 has forgotten. He quieted down and murmured with an unrecognizable language, wondering where he is. He stepped out of the corridor as the guards nervously watched him. An ancient Sumerian expert was soon sent to the scene to help communicate. He has forgotten. Staying in a standard humanoid containment room, 076-2 told the researchers that he wanted to go grazing. To satisfy his request, an indoor farm was soon built. They were still highly alert to 076-2, but he had a great time anyways. He asked the employees, who were dressed as biblical characters, of 073's trace. At first, they got away temporarily by telling him that 073 went to travel, though he became much more persistent 2 months later and even threatened the employees. More armed forces were arranged around 076-2's farm. They tried to come up with excuses that could be accepted by 076-2, but they have never thought of one. Soon, 076-2 realized that they were lying to him. He escaped from its containment room and finally met SCP-073. Surprisingly, there were no conflicts between 073 and 076-2. 073 apologized to 076-2, though 076-2 did not appear to comprehend what the apology was for. Since then, 073 was allowed to meet with 076-2 periodically. After this event, 076-2 was aging at the same speed as an ordinary human being and was estimated to die in a few years. By then, Containment Area 25 should recover all special containment methods that were used to contain SCP-076. the current 076-2 remained its state of death for 10 years, in which no 076-2 has been produced from 076-1 since. 076-2 is now considered neutralized. SCP-073 is currently kept in Site-17, a 2-room cell furnished with all non-organic furniture and items, and a bathroom. 073 can freely wander the facility and eat in the main canteen. A tracking device has been attached to SCP-073's person and is not to be removed. It is disallowed any contact with the surface and is not allowed outside the facility. It is also not allowed to have any contact with plant-based SCPs under any circumstances. Violence is not to be used against 073 under any circumstances.
Cain didn't have the luxury of forgetting why he did it or how Abel's blood had dripped off the stone and onto his corpse. He could still hear his mother's distant wailing, the mountains crumbling, and the sky cracking as a father mourned the death of his son, all because of Cain. Cain! Cain! You there? Leora watched as Cain jolted back to reality and moved his queen 6 places, toppling one of her pawns. Check. Aw, come on, every time. Man, thought I had you there. She pouted as he dissolved the captured piece back into light. You'd have to do better than this, little miss. She noticed the same absent-minded look spreading across Cain's face again. Is something the matter? You look troubled. Ah, just old memories. An old man lost in thoughts. Oh, what are you thinking about? For a brief moment, Cain's ever-pleasant demeanor drained from his face and he became someone else. Someone old and tired who had done many things he regretted. And then, as quickly as the look had appeared, he had banished it from his face again. Nothing in particular. Hello everybody, I'm TheRubber. Today we're bringing you a tale from the SCP Foundation. Let's play again tomorrow. Sure thing. Off you go now. Leora waved at him as the guard led her away from the cell. Cain waved back with a smile. The cell door shut tight and the smile once again faded away. Cain looked around his cell, nothing but cold steel and lifeless concrete. He sighed and spoke to himself. Haven't I suffered enough? How long do I have to carry this curse? When will it end? He missed the days when he used to walk the earth barefoot, when he used to collect wild berries and hunt in the woods with his brother. He could vividly feel the leaves brushing against his body and leaves crunching softly under his careful steps. He grew sad remembering how comforted he would feel when he lay down on the grassy ground after a day of hard work. I mean no disrespect, but isn't it nice? Being an immortal and all, like you don't need to worry about being sick and dying from things like cancer. You're free to do whatever you want, live however you want. Oh, how would you live your immortal life then, my friend? First thing first, to hell with this diet. I'm gonna eat whatever the hell I want. I only eat healthily to maintain my physique and keep my job. I'm sure you can imagine how this place is a meat grinder for men like us. Most of us die in missions that we can't even tell our loved ones about. To die like that? Nah, I wouldn't have to worry about a damn thing if I had a body like yours, Cain. Very well, I can see why you'd think that way, but you must consider its less desirable aspects as well. Yeah, plants and papers rot around you, but I'm fine with that. I think it's a fair deal if that means I can live forever. Hell, I think it's a steal. Well, when you put it that way, I guess I've been very fortunate, in a way. The memories of the past haunted him still. This photographic memory is a blessing and a curse, he thought to himself. Cain had already left when it happened. His curse had killed the land around him and forced him away from everything he had known. As if it wasn't enough to continually mourn his brother and the loss of his home, he would often see himself carrying his dead brother's body in his nightmares. Each time, his brother would only speak one word: remember. No matter what, the blood dripping on the stone was always the first thing he saw when he closed his eyes. 3 days earlier, the Foundation had requested that Cain reunite with his brother. He decided to give it a shot. Cain crossed the white room and stood over the coffin that held his brother. He didn't know if Abel could hear him in there. Maybe he was sleeping. The thought made him smile a little. Maybe Abel's habit of long naps hadn't changed. Good morning, brother. Say, shouldn't you be tending to your sheep?
They're scattered all over the hills. Cain waited, no reply from the coffin, not a single sound. Abel, I'm sorry. Before he could finish, Abel's hand broke through the coffin's dark wood, gripping a sword. Cain barely had time to react after he caught a glimpse of it as it tried to decapitate him. However, Cain did not dodge the blade. He didn't need to. Abel's head fell to the floor and turned to dust, caving in on itself. Cain coughed, ran his hand over his neck, and winced. Good to see you too. I'll never get used to that. Unpleasant would be an understatement. Abel stepped out of his coffin, the blade still tightly gripped in his hand. Why are you here? What do you want? I came to ask for… Abel silenced his brother by lifting the tip of his sword to Cain's neck. Leave. Now. You know, you can never hurt me, don't you? Abel brought his sword to his own neck and thrust it into his skin. Again, Cain let him. Watching his brother being decapitated again displeased him deeply. I told you, you can't. Oh, I see what you're trying to do. Collapsing into a pile on the floor, Abel's head and body turned to dust. Very well, brother. I'll come by again soon. Cain purposefully took his time leaving, just in case Abel changed his mind, but he didn't. This scene would recur over and over for another month. Sometimes, Abel would pretend to finally be interested in a chat, only to decapitate himself by means of Cain's anomalous arm reflection ability and go back to his coffin. Sometimes, he would not even make a sound. Sometimes, Cain would come to Abel's chamber just to sit by the coffin. Sometimes he would sing as Abel slept. Abel had been the timid brother. The only thing that soothed him on stormy nights was his mother's lullabies. Despite his age, Cain was still able to hum the soft, haunting melodies that dwelt on the brighter days before all this, before the killing. He was somewhat pleased by it. Sometimes, before Cain left, Abel would say just one thing to him from his coffin. I'll never forgive you, Cain. The next time Leora came to Cain's cell to play chess, it was quieter than most days. In the past, Cain would comment on her moves, providing running commentary of the game. Ah, I see what you're trying to do. Ooh, I see you're emulating me, but that won't work. Too late now, and check. But today, Cain was only focused on the board. Rarely did he look up or even talk. Is everything okay? You've barely said a single word today. Are you tired? What? Oh no, I'm just focusing on the game. I'm all right. He reached for a piece, but hesitated for a moment, his fingers hovering in the air. Yeah, well, being the smart guy you are, you're always telling stories, chatting up the guard, or doing something else during our games. You don't typically need to focus like that. Something else must be troubling you. She's right about that one, Cain. Guess there's no point hiding from you lot. I'm currently plagued with a problem regarding seeking forgiveness. Please forgive me. I prefer to leave the details to myself. Well, there's not much to it. You say sorry and ask for forgiveness. You say your piece and hope that person understands and forgives you. Everything sounds clearer and simpler with you. It doesn't have to be complicated, Cain. You're such a nice person and kind too. I cannot imagine why anyone would get mad at you. You flatter me, little miss. But at the time, I wasn't the man I am today. I was bad. Very, very bad. Yeah, but you've changed for the better, haven't you? That alone should be enough to, redeem yourself, right? Cain opened his mouth, but he couldn't find the words. Thoughts of forgiveness and redemption filled his mind. Do I deserve to be forgiven after all I've done? He thought. To be given immortality, albeit with a trade-off, surely it's a blessing. Have I redeemed myself? I may not be as smart as you, but you and me, we're all just not normal people living under the watchful eyes of normal people. We eat, sleep, and live according to specific rules. If the Foundation didn't make rules for us, our own specialties would find a way for us to live painful lives. No one else could understand. Sure, some may be jealous that you get to live so long while the rest of us just stop living at some point. Death is scary, but you've beat it. Still, maybe we're simple to think that way, because, you understand your pain better than other people. I don't know. Only the cursed ones live here in cells. I think you've done enough, suffered enough, Cain. You'll be forgiven, I'm sure of it. She looked back down at the chessboard. Cain could only look at her as she planned her next move. The next day, Abel's coffin remained silent, as Cain expected. "I have come to talk. Please forgive me. I apologize from the bottom of my heart." Abel slowly opened the coffin, standing and stepping out, watching his brother with patient yet rageful gaze. "Heart, huh? Funny. I swear you didn't have one when you murdered me, your own brother. I'm sorry. Sorry? Sorry? That's all you can say? You have the audacity to come here and say sorry now, after killing and leaving me? Why? Killing me and leaving me to these people to leave their marks on me, all their marks? Tell me. I was young and jealous. I'm older now. Time has carved its wisdom into me. I'm here now because I still love you. Please forgive me, Abel." Abel drew his blade. As he prepared to swing, he let the sword fall to the ground with a clatter, instead putting his hands around Cain's neck. "It's not fair. It's not fair. You are so untouched. I can't leave a single wound on you. And yet, look at me. Look at all the things that have been done to me. It's so unfair. I died, and now I live a life of rage and disgrace. You, on the other hand, are revered by the people around you. You used to be my hero. But you let this happen to me." As he choked Cain, Abel could feel himself being choked by his own strength, but he didn't care. The rage and sadness inside him drove him to continue. "I see it, Abel. I see what I've done. I take full responsibility. I don't know how, but I promise I'll make it up to you, brother." Cain reached out and touched Abel's face to wipe the tears running down his cheeks. Abel let out a cry as he exerted his full strength into crushing Cain's windpipe. With a crunch, Abel gasped and let go, crumbling at Cain's feet. By the time the brothers' tears reached the floor, they could only wet the dust that remained. "So, how goes it?" "Oh, well, I did my best there." "Did the person forgive you?" "I don't know, and I may never know. But that's fine now. I have to accept it for what it is." "What?" "But that's so unfair. You were so worried and you did your best. I've made peace with it now. No matter how many times I apologize, if he won't accept it, there's nothing I can do. The things I've done are a part of me. Perhaps I have already redeemed myself. Maybe not. Still, no amount of goodwill and charity can erase the harm I've done. We can only do better. I still can't imagine what you could have possibly done to get a curse like losing the ability to die." He only smiled and moved his knight. "Perhaps it's for bullying a girl in chess. Come now, it's about time you end my curse, little miss."